Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Velele Nkosi. In this video, we are on a class of grade 11s. We will be looking at the gaseous exchange. So today we will specifically look at human respiratory system. So like always, all our videos, we start with showing the examination guideline. So this is the examination guideline is for life sciences grade 11s under CAPS. So examination guideline document implementation 2024. So this guideline is still active from 2024. So we are on gaseous exchange, which falls under paper 1, carries 32 marks, which is a lot of marks according to me. So it's a lot of marks. You must make sure you understand all the concept here. So in this video, I will be looking at the introduction. So in the introduction, we must be able to distinguish between the following processes. So the processes are cellular respiration, breathing, and gas exchange. So you must make sure you know what are these processes and where they are taking place. So I will explain in this video, and then I will also explain the gaseous exchange. In the gaseous exchange, you must know that there are requirements that need to be met for a gaseous exchange to be efficient. So the requirements that are needed is the large surface area, thin organs, moist, well ventilated, protected, and the transport system. So during the course, all of these things will be explained. So I won't explain them in a single video. So in this video, I will explain some and I will show you where one happening. And then today, we're also looking at the human gaseous exchange. So in human gaseous exchange, we'll show the structure of the human ventilating system. And then in the structure of the system, the parts that we need to be familiar with are these parts, which is trachea, epiglottis, bronchi, bronchioles, lungs, ribs, intercostal muscle, diaphragm, and the alveoli. So these are the parts that you must make sure you know their locations, and then the function and the structural adaptation of each part of the ventilation system. So these parts, you must make sure you know their locations, you know their functions, and that they are structural adaptation. By structural adaptation, you must be able to explain how they perform their function. So without wasting more time, let's get to the lesson of today. First of all, we'll be looking at the difference between cellular respiration, breathing, and the gas exchange. So let me start with cellular respiration. So cellular respiration is the process that happens inside our cells to use oxygen to break down food molecules like glucose and releases energy. So cellular respiration is the process that produces energy in our body. So the energy that we use to walk, we use to do anything that we do. So this energy is produced during cellular respiration. And then the process takes place in a mitochondria of a cell. If you remember a cell, there is a part that we call a mitochondria. So this process takes place in a cell, so in a mitochondria. So here I made an example of the process. This is a glucose. When we add glucose and then oxygen, then we end up with carbon dioxide. You remember, as animals, we release carbon dioxide, but we get in oxygen. So glucose and oxygen, they produce carbon dioxide, water, and the ATP. So ATP, it's a form of energy. So the energy that we use to do our daily basis is this energy is called the ATP, is produced during cellular respiration. And then breathing. When we talk about breathing, breathing is a mechanical process of moving air in and out of the lungs. So when air moves in and out of the lungs, this process is called breathing. And then when we inhale, the diaphragm and the chest muscle contract, increasing the volume of our chest cavity and lowering air pressure in our lungs. This pulls air into our lungs. So this is how air gets into our lungs. Diaphragm and the chest muscle, they contract, and then as they contract, and then the air gets into our lungs. And then when we exhale, our diaphragm and the chest muscle relax, then push air outwards. So they also take out the air. Chest muscle and the diaphragm are the ones that play important in getting air into our lungs. And then now let's get to the gas exchange. So gas exchange is the process by which oxygen from the inhaled air enter our bloodstream and the carbon dioxide from the cellular respiration is released from our blood into air we exhale. And then it's the process again when carbon dioxide, you must remember in cellular respiration, carbon dioxide is the product. So after this product has released during the cellular respiration, so carbon dioxide must move out of our body. So this process takes place in the lungs, and then the lungs takes this carbon dioxide out of the blood, then move it out of our body during the exhalation. So this process of gas exchange takes place in the alveolus. It's when oxygen gets into our blood while carbon dioxide exit the blood, then move out of the body. So I hope I explained everything about cellular respiration, breathing, and the gaseous exchange. Now let's look at the parts and their functions. So this is the structure of a human respiratory system. I will explain each part according to the examination guideline. So first of all, I will start with the ribs. The ribs are these bones. And then about the ribs found on each part of the sternum. So when we talk about sternum, we talk about this bone in the middle. But the ribs are these bones that are moving backwards. So they're found in each part of the sternum, and then its job is to protect lungs against injury. So these ribs, the functions of these ribs, they protect lungs against injury. If you can see, these ribs, they are like butler proof. They are constructed in a way butlers are put on a window. So they used for protection. And then we have another part that we call the intercostal muscle. So intercostal muscle, it's found between the ribs. So between the ribs, they are muscle, then they contract and relax during exhalation and inhalation. So these muscles are the ones that I just talked about. Say they are the chest muscle. So they work together with the diaphragm to take in air and then out of our body, and they alter the volume of the air in the chest. So this alteration of the volume is the one that causes air to get into our body or get out of our body. So these are the functions of the ribs and the intercostal muscle. So now let's get inside. So I will remove these ribs so that we can see what is happening inside. Then I took the ribs out. So the nasal cavity. So nasal cavity is this cavity where air gets into our body. So like here we have got the nose, and then the air get in, then move through the nasal cavity down the lungs. So this nasal cavity contains hair. So this hair is used to trap foreign objects. So this foreign object that get inside our nose, they are trapped by the hair that found in the nasal cavity. And then it has a mucus. So the mucus is used to trap dust. So this is the function about the nasal cavity. So now let's look at all the parts that the examination guideline want us to know the functions and their adaptation. So the first part that we have to look is epiglottis, and then the epiglottis is a cartilage structure on top of the larynx. So this is the cartilage structure on top of the larynx. It prevents food from entering the trachea. So this epiglottis, it prevents food as they travel down the esophagus. It prevents food to enter the trachea. You must remember, food are not allowed to enter the respiratory system. So this epiglottis is it's like a door. It opens and closes. It only allows air to enter, but not any other thing other than air. So if the food, if maybe we swallow something and then it closes the respiratory system so that nothing get into the respiratory system. You must know that the respiratory system is open. It's not closed. It's open. If something get in, it might go down until it reach the lungs. So, but there are mechanisms that make sure that it's protected. And then the next part that we are focusing on now is the trachea. So a trachea is this part here. So about the trachea is a windpipe in front of the esophagus. So this is the windpipe. So the epiglottis, it closes the trachea. And then the trachea, it's a windpipe in front of the esophagus. And then it's a C-shaped cartilage rings that protect trachea. So it has a C shape. It keep it open for easy air movement. So this C shape makes sure that this trachea is always open so that air can travel very easily. So these are the adaptation of the trachea and the functions of the trachea. And then next part is bronchus. So bronchus, this part here, this trachea as it goes down and then it branches out into two parts. So this part is called the bronchus. Then when we talk about bronchus is the left and right branches of the trachea. So as the trachea is branched out, we call it the bronchus. It held open by a O-shaped cartilage ring. So bronchus is O-shaped while the trachea is C-shaped. This one is O-shaped and then it always open so that air can travel through. And then it contact air to and from the lungs. So it takes air out of the lungs. It also takes air into the lungs. So you must know where you can see where this bronchus it is pointed. It is pointed at these two branches of the trachea. And then next part are the lungs. So the lungs this part, this big part here, this red part are called lungs. And then functions of the lungs. Lungs are two spongy surrounded by a double pleural membrane. So these lungs are protected by pleural membrane. Must remember that the respiratory system it must be protected. So for it to be efficient, it must be protected. So I talked about ribs which protect the lungs against injury, and then now we have pleural membrane. So the pleural membrane are the membranes around the lungs. So they are also protecting the lungs. And then there is a pleural fluid act as a lubricant and prevent friction during breathing. So pleural fluid, it is found in between the double pleural membrane. So in between the pleural membrane, there is a pleural fluid which acts as a lubricant and then it prevents friction. So the lungs, this big part here are the lungs. So you must know how the lungs are adapted to do their functions. And then next part is broncholi. So the broncholi is the branch out inside the lungs. So broncholi are found inside the lungs. So there are subdivisions of the bronchi inside the lungs. So bronchi are this part that enters the lungs, and then as they branch out, so these branches are called bronchioli. And then another part, it's a alveolus. So alveolus are the sac-like structure. So let's look at the alveolus. The alveolus is a small, thin wall sac-like structure. So alveolus, they are more like a bag or a sac. And then they are surrounded by a network of blood capillary. Then that is where gas exchange is taking place. Gas exchange takes place in the alveolus because alveolus is surrounded by the blood capillary. So that is where carbon dioxide is leaving blood into the alveolus, and then oxygen from the alveolus into the blood stream. So that is why they say it is surrounded by a network of blood capillary. It's a site of gaseous exchange. So it's where the gaseous exchange is taking place. This is the alveolus, and then it's very thin. You must remember the requirements about the gaseous exchange. It must be very thin walled sac-like structure. So these are one of the requirements. And then each lung contains a large number of alveolus. So a large number of alveolus, this increases the surface area, which is one of the requirements of this human respiratory system. And then it increases the surface area because there are a lot of alveolus. Each lung contains a lot of alveolus, so they increases the surface area. So this is how alveolus works. And then next part, it's a diaphragm. So now we talk about a diaphragm. So the diaphragm is this muscle below the lungs. About the diaphragm, a sheet of muscle below the lungs. It separates thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity. When we talk about thoracic cavity, we talk about the chest cavity. So this cavity at the chest, another name is called thoracic cavity. And then when we talk about abdominal cavity, it's where we find stomach, liver, this downwards cavity. That is where is called abdominal cavity. So, but the diaphragm, it separates these two cavities. So it's a sheet like muscle that separate these two cavities. And then it alters the volume of the chest by contracting and relaxing during breathing. So diaphragm together with the ribs muscles, they are the ones that make sure the volume of this chest cavity is not staying constant. So they are the ones that affect the volume. As they contract or relaxing, then this volume of the chest cavity, it increases and decreases. And then you must know that as it increases, it pulls oxygen inside the body, and then as it decreases, it pushes carbon dioxide out of the body. So this is the function of the diaphragm. It's a sheet of muscle below the lungs, and then it separates thoracic cavity, which is the chest cavity, from the abdominal cavity. And then it alters the volume of the chest by contracting and relaxing during the breathing. Then, so these are the parts that we must know according to examination guideline. Guys, you must remember, you don't have to read the whole textbook. So this whole textbook is just for you to understand. But if you want to score maximum marks, make sure you use examination guideline. So these are only the parts that the examination guideline wants you to understand. So you don't have to know most of the stuff. Make sure you understand the ones that examination guideline wants you to understand. I hope I make sense. So these are all the parts that I just explained. And then in the next video, I will explain the process of gas exchange transportation, and then also the exchange inside the cells. So in our next video about grade 11, I will explain all those processes. So for now, this is the end of this video. So if you have watched this video to this far, thank you very much. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can grow. And if you are studying, good luck with your studies. Thank you very much. God bless you.